Daniel had owned the small but popular diner for years, but today, something was different. He walked through the front door wearing a red MAGA hat and an old, worn-out jacket. To most, he looked like just another middle-aged man trying to make a political statement, but Daniel had a deeper reason for his outfit. He didn't intend to make a grand statement, nor did he want to stir trouble. Instead, Daniel wanted to test how people would treat him based on his political affiliations. He had heard the whispers and seen the judgment from people who wore the same hat. The world had become too divided. He wanted to see if people would still treat him with respect, or if they would assume he was a certain type of person simply because of the hat. He walked confidently to a booth in the corner, deliberately placing himself in the midst of the lunchtime rush. The usual din of conversation continued, but Daniel noticed something else. The staff was eyeing him carefully, their expressions unreadable. Was it because of the hat? He wondered. Lily, a waitress, approached his table, but the moment she saw the red hat, her demeanor shifted. Her eyes narrowed slightly, and without a word, she turned and rushed to the manager, Catherine. They exchanged whispers, their eyes occasionally darting toward him. Daniel knew exactly what was happening. They had already judged him, based on a single symbol. How would they react, he wondered, with a slight sense of amusement. But Daniel wasn't angry. This was part of his experiment. It was the perfect opportunity to observe how deeply political affiliations had rooted themselves into people's lives. Catherine, the restaurant's manager, wasn't one to back down from what she believed in. Over the years, she had made it clear that the diner was a place for unity. No politics, no religion, just food and camaraderie. But as soon as she spotted Daniel in the corner, her thoughts immediately turned to the red hat. She had never agreed with the ideals it represented. To her, it was a symbol of division and conflict, and she couldn't stand the idea of it in her establishment. As the manager, she had a responsibility to ensure her customers were comfortable, and she felt that his presence, especially with that hat, would upset the atmosphere she had worked so hard to cultivate. She walked over to Lily with a stiff posture. "Don't serve him," she ordered quietly. "We can't allow that kind of thing here." Her words were firm, almost harsh, as she shot a quick glance toward Daniel. Lily hesitated for a moment. She had been working here for years, but her discomfort around politics made it difficult to make decisions like these. She knew that Catherine had strong beliefs, but she also knew that Daniel wasn't just any customer. He was a regular at the diner. Still, she followed her manager's lead, nodding silently. Daniel's plan was working. His heart beat faster, but his eyes remained calm. The tension in the air grew thicker as the staff and a few of the patrons exchanged uneasy glances. He wasn't angry. He was curious. How far would this go? He waited for them to make the first move. Minutes passed, but for Daniel, it felt like hours. The conversation around him continued, but a strange tension now filled the room. A few people who had been sitting near Daniel cast him curious glances, whispering among themselves, their expressions uncomfortable. The staff seemed frozen, as though they weren't sure how to handle the situation. The red hat had caused more than just a political stir. It had created a rift. Daniel, however, remained calm. He knew exactly how things were unfolding. He wasn't the kind of person to get angry over a small misunderstanding, and he certainly wasn't about to make a scene. This was an experiment, and it had already begun to reveal the truth about how divided people had become. Catherine and Lily continued to avoid him, exchanging more hushed words. The entire restaurant had become a stage for an unwitting social experiment. Everyone was watching, but no one knew who would make the first move. Would anyone confront him? Or would they quietly refuse him service based solely on his political affiliation? The staff's hesitation only added to the rising suspense. The longer Daniel sat there, the more he wondered if he had miscalculated. Had he gone too far? It wasn't long before the moment of truth arrived. Catherine and Lily exchanged a final glance before the manager walked over to Daniel's booth. Her steps were measured, her face tight with resolve. She cleared her throat and looked down at him. "I'm sorry, sir, but we can't serve you with that hat on," Catherine said, her voice as polite as possible, but the underlying judgment was clear. She was standing by her decision, despite the fact that Daniel was one of the restaurant's most loyal customers. Daniel didn't flinch. Instead, he slowly reached up and removed the red hat. The silence was deafening. The entire restaurant held its breath as Daniel revealed his face, and then he smiled. "I own this restaurant," he said simply. The words hung in the air like a shockwave. There was no sound for a long moment, and then gasps rippled through the room. Catherine's eyes widened in disbelief. She had just refused to serve the owner of the restaurant, all because of a hat. Lily stood frozen, her mouth slightly agape. Daniel's heart rate picked up, but this time it wasn't with excitement. It was with the satisfaction of seeing the truth unfold. Catherine was the first to recover. Her face turned pale as she realized what she had done. She looked around the restaurant, realizing that everyone was staring at her now. She had just made a critical mistake. "Sir, I didn't know," she stammered, her voice low and filled with embarrassment. "I didn't realize it was you." Lily, who had been standing nearby, quickly followed suit. "I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I shouldn't have judged you." Daniel raised his hand to stop them. He wasn't angry. In fact, he was more interested in what they would say now. It was a moment of revelation, and Daniel was curious about how they would react to the truth. "Don't apologize to me," Daniel said, his voice calm but firm. "Apologize to yourselves. You judged me based on a hat, not who I am." Catherine and Lily looked at each other, their faces flushed with shame. The lesson was clear. Their decision had been based purely on their own biases, political, not personal. "I think we can all agree," Daniel continued, "that we need to treat people as individuals, not based on what they wear or what they believe. Politics has nothing to do with how we treat each other as human beings." The awkward silence that followed felt heavy, like the weight of an uncomfortable truth. Daniel had sat through the judgment, the whispers, and the unfair treatment, all because of his MAGA hat. It had been a calculated move, but now that the truth had come to light, it wasn't about politics anymore. It was about human decency. Catherine sat down across from Daniel, a deep sigh escaping her lips. "I thought I was doing the right thing," Catherine admitted, her voice regretful. "I thought I was protecting the restaurant from controversy. I was so focused on my own beliefs that I didn't think about the bigger picture." Lily, who had been standing quietly at the side, finally spoke up. "I shouldn't have judged you. I feel ashamed. I let my own opinions cloud my judgment." Daniel nodded slowly, accepting their apologies. "I'm not mad," he said, "but I think we've all learned something important today." He paused for a moment, letting the words settle. "It's not about politics or any of that stuff. It's about treating people with respect. Human decency." Catherine and Lily exchanged glances, both now understanding the depth of the lesson. The atmosphere in the restaurant had shifted. It was no longer about political stances, but about kindness and respect. After the tension had been broken between the staff, Daniel knew he had one more thing to do. He stood up from his booth, looking at the quiet restaurant. Everyone was watching, waiting to see what would happen next. Daniel took a deep breath. "Ladies and gentlemen, I owe you all an apology," he said, his voice steady and clear. "What happened here today should not have happened. This restaurant is a place for everyone, no matter what you believe. No politics, just good food and good company." The room was silent for a moment, but soon murmurs of agreement filled the air. Daniel smiled and added, "I just want to remind all of us that we're here to treat each other with respect, no matter who we are or what we believe. This should be a place of unity, not division." There was a long pause, and then, to his surprise, a few people started to clap. The mood shifted. The room that had once felt thick with judgment now felt lighter, more open. In the days that followed, Daniel made sure to address the situation with the staff. It wasn't enough to just apologize. He needed to make sure it never happened again. He gathered his team, including Catherine and Lily, and emphasized the importance of inclusivity and respect for all customers. Politics should never come before our responsibility to treat people with dignity, he told them. Catherine and Lily were both visibly contrite, but also committed to the lesson. They knew they had made a mistake, but they were determined not to repeat it. From then on, the restaurant would be a place where people of all backgrounds and beliefs could feel welcome. The incident had sparked something inside the staff. As the days went on, Daniel noticed a change. The usual political tension that once defined the atmosphere seemed to fade away. Now, the focus was on making sure every customer, regardless of their views, was treated with kindness. Catherine and Lily became vocal advocates for this new approach. They started talking to new staff members about inclusivity and fairness, sharing the lessons they had learned. Their once rigid political views had softened, replaced by a broader understanding of humanity. The diner slowly but surely became a place not just for good food, but for good conversations. Customers, once hesitant to come in due to the political tension, started to return. The staff worked hard to make sure everyone felt welcomed, no matter who they were or what they believed. The red MAGA hat, once a symbol of division, had now become a symbol of unity. Daniel had learned that sometimes the best way to create change is by testing the waters, by forcing people to confront their own biases. And in the end, the diner became a place where people could leave their political differences at the door and simply be human.